What's the point in revisiting the past? New good, old bad, we've heard it time and time before. Nostalgia has become a cornerstone of modern culture. Life just gets less fun as you get older. It's only natural to revisit your past, rewatching old movies, rereading a favorite comic, and yes, even playing old video games. People love buying old stuff from their youth. It's why you have to trade in a left nut to get any GameCube games these days. I'm not getting that back.
And you're not getting your copy of Wario World back either!
And then you got people like me. I didn't even grow up with Wario World, or half of these games for that matter. Now, I love playing the stuff from my youth over and over again, do not get me wrong. But what I really love playing is just video games. It just so happens I have a taste for the old stuff. Now, I can argue all day and night about how games were better back then, and I just might. But what really got me into retro gaming in the first place is an interest in history. The history of video games is cool as heck. Some people just don't get that. Like, what's this crazy old thing? And did you know that before games were put in plastic boxes, they used to be in cardboard boxes? And even fancy jewel cases? I don't know, I just love this stuff. I love to immerse myself in a time I've never really been in. It's inherently valuable to learn the history of a game series, at least in my opinion. You know, the Mario series has a lot of history for that matter, spanning hundreds of games across probably hundreds of development teams. That's exactly what I cover here on the Mario Marathon.
What is the Mario Marathon, you may ask? This right here is my wacky web show where I talk about every single Mario game ever made. I talk about what I like, what I dislike, and what the game really means to me. I get a little goofy, maybe a little edgy, and most of the times, really sappy. But at the end of the day, I just want to talk about what this red-clad plumber really means to me. And the spin-offs too, you know, I gotta give love to DK and Yoshi and Wario and all them. So I was pissing in the sink the other day and I thought to myself, man, those old videos are awful. So the idea for this video was gonna be that it's like the 5th anniversary celebration, so for that I'm gonna go back and re-review the first 5 episodes. It didn't quite work out that way because I moved again. So happy
7th
anniversary. It's a great thing that I'm improving with every video, but that's kind of the thing, right? You know, like, you improve as an artist and every video gets good and better and better and better, but that just means that the old ones are like...
And a video game series in particular that I really like is Super Smash Brothers. It's fun.
So I offer this as an official new starting place of my series, the Mario Marathon, where you can just skip those first 5, watch this one, then go on to Wrecking Crew. Or just watch this or whatever else. I mean, you could watch in any order you want. You could just skip my channel altogether. I'm not your boss. You're in control of your own destiny. I don't know. So let's stop talking about the past and let's go to the future where we talk about the past. That's a good sentence.
Back in the day, Nintendo was known for making novelties. They tried since 1889 to find their place, starting manufacturing Hanafuda cards, then trying all sorts of things like love testers, love hotels, novelty toys, and then they finally settled on the world of video games. Their transition into gaming was a rough one, however, with a lot of their games just not doing terribly well. They put out all sorts of games like Sheriff, Monkey Magic, and fucking Computer Othello. One such game was called Radar Scope, and it sold horribly. They couldn't give the damn things away, and yet there they were, with a ton of unsold stock. Nintendo had a plan though, and a deceptively simple one at that. Rework the game into a new one built off the same hardware. Write over those unsold cabinets, and then sell these cabinets as a brand new game. This was an efficient way to reuse old stock, while still making a brand new game. But that's just the challenge. What would this new game be? Enter Shigeru Miyamoto, but be careful in doing so, the man doesn't wipe. This infamously eccentric individual got the job as Nintendo's very first staff artist back in 1977, when he aced the interview with a banging portfolio and maybe a little bag of treats for the interviewer. Well, as the story goes, one day everyone else in the building was busy, so old Shiggy gets sent to the big boss man Hiroshi Yamauchi's office, and is tasked with devising this new game alongside Gunpei Yokoi, the man who'd eventually go on to create the Game Boy. The game began life as a tie-in with Popeye called Popeye's Beer Barrel Attack Game. Nintendo had the license to make a Popeye game at the time, and they viewed this as their opportunity to make it. It was to be some sort of maze game, with the player of course being Popeye, on a quest to save Olive Oil. You'd think you'd be saving her from Bluto, and at first he was, but fairly early on they made the main baddie a giant gorilla. The setting was decided to be a construction site, a choice inspired by the short A Dream Walking. Eventually they changed course from this maze game to a platformer, with the player jumping over obstacles and climbing on the top to save Olive. One problem though, they couldn't actually make the characters look like the characters. It was something the team struggled with, as this very thing inspired Mario's famous design. So it was decided to make original characters easier to depict within the limits of the small sprite sizes. Fortunately, Nintendo's Popeye game did eventually get made and get released in 1982, having of course a new premise. And so they got to working on our new protagonist, one named many things: Osan, Mr. Video, Jumpman, Rescue Man, but of course, we would eventually come to call him Mario. His arms would bleed together with his shirt, so to give him more defined limbs, they gave him overalls. Then I guess they didn't like how his hair looked, so this led to his iconic cap. And then finally, his face just looked a bit bland and without a unique silhouette, so they gave him a big giant old nose and a fluffy mustache. The damsel in distress Mario was to save was simply just called Lady, but later she was given the official name of Pauline. The game was called Table Kong Game at this point in development. Fun fact, according to leftover files in the game, Pauline was originally going to cheer you on and cry for help using real voice recordings. Export manager Shinichi Todori was tasked with cooking up a final name, and told by Yokoi to have something goofy, and that includes the word Kong. Apparently Todori and Yokoi were both under the impression that Kong simply just meant gorilla. Among a bunch of names, Donkey Kong was chosen. One of the other names was Funky Kong, fun fact. And why donkey? He's a gorilla, not a stinking donkey. Well, the Japanese word tanma means stubborn, and when literally translated into English, it came out as donkey. So in a weird way, it's actually a mistranslation. Shout out to the gaming historian for his mad research on this topic by actually finding the transcriptions of the Universal lawsuit, bringing this info to the mainstream. The dev team at Nintendo R&D 1 got hard at work, but finally Donkey Kong released to arcades on July 9th, 1981. Mario's a carpenter living in the big city. It's canonically New Donk City, but the original lore was that it's Brooklyn. It could be both, whatever. He's got a pet gorilla, which disproves that this could take place in Brooklyn, actually, as it's illegal to own a gorilla there. That gorilla, of course, is Donkey Kong. He's also got a girlfriend, Pauline. Mario's kind of a dick, though, actually taunting and abusing his pet. And after a while of this, it pushes DK to his breaking point. He gets pissed, he runs off, kidnaps Pauline. He takes her to a construction site that Mario may or may not be working at, and he makes a whole mess of the place. Naturally, it's up to Mario to save her. Quick side note, it won't be a large part of the soundtrack because these games actually don't have a lot of music, but if you hear a song from the arcade games that sounds just a lot more clear than the originals, that's because I'm using the amazing remasters by Aquamidi. The dude is an absolute legend that remasters retro soundtracks using similar equipment that the original composers would have been using at the time. Check his shit out. Anyway, upon starting up, you're greeted with a cutscene of Donkey Kong climbing to the top of the board with Pauline, and then jumping around to bend the girders. How high can you get? Buddy, you don't even want to know. Alrighty, so the goal of the first 3 boards is to get your little Mario man up to the top with Pauline. They switch it up on you in the 4th, but I'll get to that in a bit. You can jump and climb ladders, and that's pretty much it. You die in 1 hit, and if you fall from any distance more than a fucking foot, you break your ankles and die. For some reason. Starting off with the first board, we got 25M, barrel dropping. DK is rolling barrels down the girders, and you have the simple goal of climbing to the top. You can jump over the barrels, but doing this can be a little bit tricky because this game was made before analog jumping. You got a set jump arc, and man, it sucks. There's no back jumping, no slowing down, no short hopping. This is one set arc. Old school controls. Some of the ladders are broken, just to give you false hope, I guess. Sometimes the barrels can trick you and go down a ladder. That's the only real challenge of this one. There's also an oil drum at the bottom left that could spawn a little fire guy who will attack you. You have another form of retaliation besides just jumping over stuff, and that's these little hammers scattered around. You pick these up and become invincible, in theory. Mario swings them up and down in front of himself, so you're vulnerable in the back, but also in the front half of the time. Mario swings so slowly that it's really all about timing if you actually want to kill anything besides yourself. It's clunky and annoying. Next up is 50M, the maze. This one has you climbing up, navigating conveyor belts, a big fiery oil drum that said belts are pushing you closer to, and right at the end, ladders that retract back and forth. The little fire guys will chase you around on this board. They got really tricky AI. They'll climb up ladders and purposely stand where they know you're gonna be trapped, and then they kill you. The fires are fucking assholes. This board is also home to the big bowls of oatmeal. I'm sure it's supposed to be like concrete or something, but they always look so tasty to me. Anyway, you might notice by now, but after the first round in 25M, the stages have these little items lost by Pauline. The hat, the purse, and the umbrella. These are all for points, but hey, points are everything in these old school games. They could even net you a life. Next up is 75M, the jumping stage. This one is well known for being the worst fucking stage in Smash. The main gimmick of this one is that it's all about jumping on and off of these lifts. The problem, or at least one of the problems, is Mario's fall damage. As mentioned before, Mario dies when jumping onto a platform too far below him. The shit here is, the fireballs will chase you up and down these ladders, so the pressure to jump down here is going to be on. You learn to kind of psych them out with the second ladder, but I see a lot of beginners want to jump right onto the elevator. The dickhead here, though, is the second fireball. He edge guards you! You just gotta kinda hope that he goes back up if he's hanging down at the bottom, but if not, you can always trick his AI by going back. But that's easier said than done because of the springs. Yes, for some reason, big dumb purple springs bounce in this formation. That leaves most of the level safe from them until you reach this area here. the halfway mark. It's all a matter of timing. Now in a video game, how do you learn timing? It's all about trial and error, right? You die, you try again, die, try again, win. Now I fully get that these old arcade games were all about dicking you over for a couple quarters like a highway robbery outside the laundromat, but what pisses me off, in a modern age where I don't have to pay quarters to this game, you are so fucking slow in these games. It takes half a century just to get there, and then you die and you gotta do it all over again. Movement was so stiff back then, so dying right at the halfway point with victory in your grasp, simply put, it deeply pains me. After it all, we make it to 100M, the climax of the game. This one switches up the goal a little bit. Instead of reaching the top with Pauline, which is impossible here, you gotta remove the 8 bolts around the stage by walking over them or jumping over them. Chasing you down are more fireball guys, but these ones are different. I don't know why in a game with limited memory, they made 2 sprites for enemies that are basically the same, but who am I to question Donkey Kong, right? When all is said and done, the girders fall, and so does the gorilla. DK plummets head first, conking out, and Mario reunites with his lady. The day is saved for the first of many, many times. Or fourth. Prequels. Whatever. Or is it truly saved? Nah man, you got a high score to beat. After finishing DK off, the game will loop indefinitely until you game over. Some versions have the order of boards all weird and wacky. For example, the first US revision is set up so that you do the first board, the final, then first, then third, then final, then first. I don't know why they even do that, but that led to the second board, 50M, to be a little elusive. Likely being the reason that it was cut for the NES port. Most people just didn't know it existed, so what's the point? The game was almost an immediate smash hit upon release, moving 132,000 combined units into arcades in Japan and North America combined. It arguably single-handedly marched Nintendo forward into its modern era. This was a surefire sign that they needed. They were right to go into video games. Gaming is their future. And not only that, but Mario is their future. But Donkey Kong became a pop culture icon, with cereal, toys, a board game, a card game, a recurring segment on the cartoon Saturday Supercade, and all sorts of other wacky tie-ins. For example, did you know that this game had a tie-in record made in 1983 by Kid Stuff, known for making a ton of weird Pac-Man albums? Planet Clue on YouTube did a great video talking about this record, alongside 2 of the Pac-Man ones. So I'm just gonna recommend that video and not go into too much detail. I just want to give some highlights. Particularly, this is a concept album telling a story. The tale goes that Donkey Kong used to live in the Gamesville Zoo, where he was touted as the world's biggest gorilla. The zoo had to close down and they sold all of their animals to the circus, including DK. The narrator laments that she misses seeing Donkey Kong alongside Mario and Pauline, who work at a pizza shop Mario owns.
There's no more zoo for you, and you're feeling awful blue, 'cause you want your old home. It's a place to roam, it's like a happy holiday. But there's no more zoo, zoo, zoo for you. But there's no more zoo, zoo, zoo for you.
What used to be the zoo is now a big construction site like the one in the game. So DK breaks out of the cage and runs toward the construction site, climbing up the girders and shit. Soon after, an employee, I guess not noticing this, orders a pizza from Mario, and this is depicted in such a wonderful skit.
Hello, this is a Mario's Pizza Parlor. Can I help you?
Hello, Mario. Yeah, this is Jake the Watchman from the construction site across the street. Can you make me one of your super duper pizzas and have Pauline bring it over as soon as possible?
Jake, my friend, you are in the luck. I just took one out of the oven, and I'll have Pauline to bring it over right now. Pauline! I have a pizza for you to deliver across the street, so hurry and take it over while it's hot.
Okay, Mario. I'm leaving right now.
As far as I can tell, this is Mario's first ever voice, and oh my god, I'm in love with it. So Pauline goes to the construction site to deliver the pizza, and DK sees her and remembers her visiting him at the zoo. So he kidnaps her, takes her to the top of the site, and Mario's gotta save her, just like in the game. The story aspect is goofy, and is very much for kids. It's a typical tie-in that you'd expect of the era. But the actual music, it kinda fucking slaps, bro. It's so 80s with like old school synths, and the vocals are just great. The only song I think is bad, really, is Mario Delivers. That shit is,
He didn't let us down. He didn't let us down. He didn't let us down.
It's a sure bet when we trust in Mario. M-A-R-I-O-K-A. M-A-R-I-O-K-A.
Nintendo delivers. Yeah.
But besides that, it's a pretty good album. My personal favorite is The Climber, which plays when DK climbs up the girders. I'd recommend this album for those curious. But Donkey Kong Goes Home wasn't the only music made in promotion for the game. Buckner and Garcia, I guess hopping off their success with Pac-Man Fever, made another novelty song called Do the Donkey Kong and put it on their Pac-Man Fever record. It's fine, I guess. Pac-Man Fever's better. In 2023, the Strong National Museum of Play put up a massive, playable 20-foot tall Donkey Kong cabinet. In 1982, Universal took Nintendo to court, accusing them of copying the King Kong IP. In the end, Nintendo won because, as it turns out, the morons didn't even have the right to King Kong. It was public domain. The game developed a competitive scene full of people aiming to get themselves the best score. The most famous among them is the world record holder for DK and Pac-Man, Billy Mitchell. Turns out, though, Billy Boy's allegedly a cheater and faked his scores. There's a documentary about someone trying to beat Billy called King of Kong, but it's made before the cheating stuff came out, so it's a little poorly aged. Though, maybe not. I won't go into the story quite yet. Perhaps the Billy Mitchell nonsense is ground for a banger episode of Internet Interest. Let me know if you'd like to see that. The game has a long history of ports and re-releases. The same year the original came out, Nintendo licensed the game out to Falcon to make their own cabinets in Japan, as the massive popularity of the game caused a huge shortage. They put out this version insanely fast and called it Crazy Kong. This isn't a port, it's a full recreation. And because of that, it's a bit rough around the edges. It's got glitches that weren't in the original, it's a little harder, and overall doesn't feel quite like the original. I do like how they changed the color palette though, it definitely sets it apart. Pretty much all the sounds are different too. My favorite being Mario's jump sound, which kind of sounds like a bit crunched Hiya! So maybe I'm wrong, depending on if you count it, this could be Mario's first voice. I don't count it. A revision with some word tweaks came out, once again in the same year of 1981, called Crazy Kong Part 2. Funny thing though, in both versions, Falcon removed all mentions of Nintendo, seemingly passing the game off as their own. Nintendo took them to court over this in 1982 and won. Because of this whole debacle, they did Donkey Kong Jr. cabinets all by themselves. But then later, the fucking president of Falcon got arrested for illegally copying the circuit boards to DK Jr., potentially stealing that game's code. This is all fucking real, you could look this up. Anyway, besides that, we got ports for the Atari 2600, 7800, Atari 8-bit, ColecoVision, one of those little Coleco tabletop things, the Intellivision that Coleco Adam, who the fuck Adam think he is, the Texas Instruments TI-99, I didn't even know the calculator people made games before that original video, MS-DOS, Apple II, VIC-20, Commodore 64, the Commodore 64 again, Amstrad CPC, the ZX Spectrum, and my mom. Yeah, so don't play any of these versions, they're old and inaccurate. Fun fact about that Atari 8-bit port, did you know that there was an Easter egg in it that took the world 26 years to discover? Well, back in those days, companies would only make one or a few people just slave away at certain games. But there were no credits to speak of, and often publishers would disapprove of putting names anywhere. A lot of rogue developers would often resort to just hiding their name as a way of preserving their legacy. A way to say, I was here and I did this! So the programmer of this version, a guy by the name of Landon M. Dyer, left this Easter egg in the game, but he forgot how to access it. So he posted about it online, offering a $75 bounty to the first person to find it. Come 2009, a guy by the name of Don Hodges finds it, and here's how you activate it. So you gotta play to the high score somewhere between the 37,000, 77,000, 73,000s. Then lose all your lives, but make sure the last one is from you falling off something. You set the difficulty to 4 and wait for the title screen to reset, and bam, there it is. All that for 3 little letters. Anyway, besides all those ports, we got a port to the NES. This is probably the most well-known home port of the game, being re-released a lot in itself. This version makes the game a lot less vertical and a lot more square, but besides that, they cut out 50M alongside some of the cutscenes, making this a content-light port, but hey, it's faithful besides that, and the controls are great. I have the manual for this for some reason. I don't, nor have I ever owned the NES version, so I'm not really sure how I acquired it. I think it was inside the box from my copy of Yoshi's Cookie. Someone, for some reason, wrote that they bought it on Christmas Day 1987. I don't know why, but hey, I ain't complaining. It's cool to see shit like this. Hey, so you know the Donkey Kong title theme? You know, this. It's super iconic, and it's even the theme song for Donkey Kong Country. You know what I never realized, and I could be wrong, this is all just a random thought, but that's not in the original. It just shows in attract mode until you put a quarter in, because it's an arcade game. So is that song from this version? The most iconic and well-known song in the Donkey Kong series was composed for the home port? released 2 years after the fact. This version got brought over to the Famicom Disk System, the Game Boy Advance with the cartridge and the e-reader cards. It was on the Virtual Console for Wii, 3DS, and Wii U. It's actually Nintendo's first ever Virtual Console game they ever rolled out. It's playable on the NES Classic Edition, and is part of NES Online. You can unlock it in Animal Crossing and Donkey Kong 64 also. In 1994, they made a game for the Game Boy just called Donkey Kong, and while yes, it does include all 4 levels from DK, it's very much not a port. It's an entirely new game all in itself, and it deserves a video all on its own. Soon. Very soon. Finally, as part of the Arcade Archive series of ports, the Switch received its own port of the arcade original. And that's how I played the arcade games for this video. I'd recommend Arcade Archives for anyone who wants to play the game for themselves. And hey, while I'm on the subject, I've seen a lot of these games out in the wild. Here I got some footage of a lot of the arcade cabinets I'm going to feature in this video for my trip to Too Many Games 2022. I had to miss 2023 unfortunately, but hey, here it is. The original DK cabinet. From a distance though, it was a popular cab. I hope those guys are having fun. Before moving on to the next game, there is one other Donkey Kong related thing to talk about. The Game & Watch version. Now, what is a Game & Watch? Well, it's actually Nintendo's very first line of consoles if you think about it. Besides arcade stuff, they put out a few dedicated Pong consoles for home play, alongside a light projection game or two, but the Game & Watch was something new. These are fully portable, pocket-sized games. They all had one game each, some with different setups like dual screens, different buttons, but they all had the watch feature, being able to function as a pocket watch, complete with unique alarms. They were all very primitive, like those Tiger LCD games or those McDonald's, Sonic, Spyro, and Crash games. But for the time, this shit was mad cool. Honestly though, you can argue that these ain't even video games, cause like, they don't have, you know, video. But whatever, they're important enough to cover in my opinion. They had all sorts of licensed games like for Peanuts, Mickey Mouse, and hey, even Popeye. At the time it wasn't uncommon for Nintendo to tie in a big release with a Game & Watch equivalent. The idea was to take the arcade with you on the go. But more often than not, these were totally different games with shittier gameplay. I mean, how do you truly translate this to this? Well, you try, by George, you fucking try. Also, thank you to Madrigal's wonderful simulations of a few of these games. I'm using these for footage in a lot of cases. Alright, preamble aside, the Game & Watch version. This little orange beauty was put out in the summer of '83 as part of the Game & Watch's multi-screen series. These games all had a clamshell design with 2 screens. A dead ringer for the DS, as these units acted as the main inspiration for the DS's form factor. We got 2 options over here on the right, Game A and Game B, but it's pretty much just a difficulty option, as it is for most Game & Watch games. So this game tries its best to capture the essence of the arcade version with this limited hardware. Because every graphic is drawn into the screen itself, there's only one level, and the idea is that you keep playing over and over until you beat your high score. You play as Mario, or maybe Mr. Game & Watch, whoever, but your goal is to jump over barrels, get to the top, and start again, just like the original. These girders here at the bottom are dickheads though, because you can't jump when under them, so you have to position yourself to avoid them while also dodging barrels. Sometimes these steel beams will appear here, and jumping into these will just flat out kill you for some reason. Reaching the top of the screen is where stuff gets different. DK will be throwing barrels vertically from the top, and there's no obvious way to reach him. What you gotta do is press left into the switch to turn it on, and that makes this hook over here start swinging. You go over to it, jump up onto it, and then get a bunch of points, and repeat the whole game. This game also gives us my favorite, an obscure Mario character. I mentioned before that the Game & Watch series has a built-in clock, yeah? Well, alongside that, they all have alarms that you can set to. Each game actually has unique alarm animations, and this one gives us mini Donkey Kong, this little guy with a bell. I wonder what this little dude is now. This game also had a little flyer advertising you take your picture with Donkey Kong, or something. Something's off here, though. It's been here from the start. Anyway, this is a cute little time killer of a game. If you want to play it for yourself, it's on the Game & Watch Galleries 2 and 4, as well as the Game & Watch collection on DS. Donkey Kong is an all-time classic for a reason. It seems exactly like something you try out of curiosity and never touch again because it's aged poorly, but unlike many games of the era, it ain't like that. I love Donkey Kong, it's a ton of fun, and I'd recommend it to anyone who loves video games. Whenever I see one of those multicade arcade machines in a bowling alley or a laundromat or something, it's always my first go-to. Now, Donkey Kong being the smash hit that it was, and Nintendo being the desperately in need of a hit company that it was, it would have been risky not to capitalize with a sequel. So naturally, they began hammering away at one. While working on the first game, the team was brimming with ideas for levels, but just couldn't implement them in time. When it came time to make the sequel, those ideas had their time to shine. Originally they wanted Donkey Kong to star, but he was far too big to control in a game like this. Thus it was decided to make a new Mario-sized Donkey Kong, his young son, Donkey Kong Jr. Did Donkey Kong mate while in captivity, or did he somehow find another gorilla when he escaped? And before you tell me that DK has been in captivity his entire life and there's no way he found another gorilla in Brooklyn, how about you explain the fucking jungle they go to? R&D 1 returned to development, and naturally they wanted to expand the gameplay of the first game. Instead of a focus on horizontal gameplay, it's clear they channeled their inner 75M and went for a more dense approach to level design. The levels feel like a bunch of little levels put into one. At least the first two do. Donkey Kong Jr. released to arcades on August 2nd, 1982. So after Mario defeats Donkey Kong at the end of the last game, he puts him back in his cage, and then for some reason Mario and his brother Mario take him to the jungle, but don't let him out. Just to fucking taunt him? That's so cruel. Mario in general is pretty cruel here. What with his whip and his electric lair and his cloning properties, he's very much the villain here. A strange choice in the context of today, but back then, well, it was a little weird then too, actually. I mean, you just played hours of Donkey Kong. You love rooting for Mario, and then the next game drops 13 months later, and now you're on a quest to bring him down? It's strange, but interesting. Anyway, you play as Donkey Kong's son, Jr., and it's up to you to traverse the jungle to save your dad. It's interesting that this game is kind of like a mirror to the first. Like, Mario wins in his home turf of New Donk, and Junior wins in his home turf of the jungle. Another game, another opening cutscene. Here we got two Marios lifting DK's cage from the water and taking him away as Dracula-ass music plays in the background. Get key from Mario, save your papa. Just like before, we got 4 boards, 3 where you have to get to the top, and the final has you do something more puzzly. Starting off, they drop you in the vine scene. Junior's got about the same feel as Mario, same run speed, same jumping, but ladders are ditched in favor of vines, and climbing vines is the majority of what you're going to be doing in this game. Junior will latch right on upon jumping into a vine. He's got this big frown on his face. Poor little guy, he misses his dad. Climbing up is insanely slow, but making your descent, you slide right down super fast. The fun part here, though, is when you're between 2 vines, you can climb on both at the same time. Doing this reverses it. You climb up faster, but down slower. You can kind of latch on from vine to vine to move past them. It feels really fun to do. The only problem? Snapjaws. These little critters patrol back and forth on platforms for you to jump over them, but the thing that makes them so dangerous is that they can also climb up and down vines. Then some birds called nitpickers fly at you from the top in a straight horizontal path. These combine to make climbing to the top a bit dodgy. Fun fact about nitpickers, they also appear in the NES game Ice Climber. Same universe? I don't fucking know anymore. Also on vines, we got some fruits that you can collect for bonus points, like Pauline's items. But here, you can make them fall, and if they hit an enemy, that'll kill it. There's no hammer equivalent here, so this is your only means to defeat baddies. Once you reach the top though, you'll be able to climb this vine with the key to DK. After doing so, Mario takes him away. Something I like about these little victory animations is every level has its own clear music. Something I like even more, Junior gets super confused where they're going as they leave. Like, bro, chase them, they're right there! Where'd they go? The next board is the jump board scene. This one is the prime example of what I mean when I said the levels feel like a bunch of levels crammed into one. This one's deceptive, it's a fucking adventure. So you start at the bottom with the trees and the 2 moving platforms and a spring. You jump onto the spring with momentum to get onto the next tree. And I mean it, you need to get a running start or else you can't bounce at a good enough angle. Then onto the first moving platform. Climb some vines on this floaty guy, then the next moving platform. There's these 2 like retracting vines. They kind of look like honey dribbling down. They're on this like retracting mechanism. Like, what the fuck is this thing? Maybe it's not a real jungle after all, like a movie set or something. So one honey drop is longer, then you gotta use it to get onto the platform, and then jump onto the second honey drop, which is shorter and retracts to be too short to jump on. And all 3 are moving. Good luck. That part is tricky, but you can nail it after a few tries. The final challenge is a doozy. You gotta cross from chain to chain up top here, but there are nitpickers swooping by, and they adjust their placement based on yours, so you can't just avoid them once and keep going, you gotta be careful. That being said though, once I avoided a few, I'd usually just gun it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. When you finally do figure the timing out, you reach the end, and you get a little intermission cutscene that kinda reminds me of Pac-Man. Mario's riding a helicopter airlifting DK away, and Junior's chasing them by flying with an umbrella. Windy day, I guess? Oh, and it's playing the Can-Can. Keep going to Mario's hideout. This one feels most reminiscent of the first game. It's pretty much just 25M when you break it down. You gotta climb up to the top of these bars, all while jumping over these sparks, kinda like the barrels. The only thing is that there's blue ones that stick to the ceiling, and then they come down from above you. But overall, this one ain't so bad. The Coleco Atom port has little green liquid drop on you too for some reason, basic level. The sparks are pretty similar in design, both gameplay and art, to Hotheads and Lil Sparkies, mainstay Mario enemies from later on in the series. Maybe they were inspired by these. There's also sparks from Mario 2. Point is, this kind of enemy is pretty common in this series. Originally the fruit were gonna be replaced by light bulbs, and I don't know why they changed their mind. It is kind of weird that there's like fruit and shit in here. I also always remembered thinking that the laser ceilings can kill you. They always look so dangerous, but besides that, basic level. And just like before, we got a gimmick climactic board, the chain scene. Here, DK is hooked up to these 6 lock stakes, with chains hanging down with the key at the bottom. All you gotta do is climb here while pushing the keys up to the locks. Doing this for all 6 beats the game. However, of fucking course, the nitpickers. Now they had the courtesy to put 2 fruits here, so you could, hypothetically, if you had godlike timing, kill 2 of the birds with 1 stone. But still, 4 of the fuckers all over the place, plus a bunch of snapjaws. It all makes quite the difficult final level. That being said, I actually probably took more time in the jump board scene. By the time you get here, you'll have Junior's speed and timing down. You unlock all the stakes, and soon your father is free. He falls straight down, and Junior catches him. Dude, he's insanely strong, what the hell? Mario falls too, just not so gracefully. DK and Junior hop away as Mario chases them with his whip, but DK kicks him out of the way, and all is well. Until the game loops again, just like before. Donkey Kong Jr., while nowhere near the smash hit its predecessor was, still sold extremely well, and likewise had an entire franchise built around it. I'm once again talking toys, cereals, Saturday Supercade, the works. The main tie-in to discuss here, however, are the ports, and once again they ported this thing to everything. We got the Atari 8-bit, Atari 2600, Intellivision, ColecoVision, Coleco Tabletop, and Coleco Atom. There were also fully finished but cancelled ports to the ZX Spectrum and the BBC Micro. Fun fact about that Coleco Atom port, they originally tried to implement a 5th level, the bakery, but Nintendo just didn't let them. I think it would actually give players today a reason to revisit an old inferior port years later if they actually did, but of course they didn't have that kind of foresight back then. Nintendo themselves gave us a few ports too. It was on the NES again, this time with no cut boards thankfully. That NES port was itself ported to the GBA as a cartridge and as Eater Eater cards. You can get it in Animal Crossing, there's the Virtual Console for Wii, 3DS, and Wii U, Switch Online, the NES Classic Edition, and the Famicom Disk System. There's also, again, the Arcade Archives ports of the original arcade version, and this, above all else, is what you should play. And that's what I did for this video. I do want to take one quick detour before talking about the Game & Watch stuff too. This is Donkey Kong Jr. Math. Nintendo R&D 2 blessed us with this fucking weird game one faithful day in 1983, and well, life hasn't been the same since. They thought, hey, the Famicom doesn't have enough educational games to teach the youth stuff, so let's make a few games like that, which is noble, right? But then they just kind of gave up. For the first 2 years or so of the NES's existence in the US, all first-party Nintendo games were packaged in boxes that looked like this. The idea was that the game market crashed in '83 mainly because companies were putting all these elaborate side-of-van-style art pieces on the box, and then you start it up and it just looks like this.
Spiders alone is when you want to clear some of the upper board of mushrooms. When you get a nice slow centipede, eliminated the mushrooms.
So Nintendo's like, look, okay, they put their balls on the table, the game looks like this. They were all categorized in little genres, as seen in the corner of every black and gray box title. Stack Up and Gyromite were part of the Robot series because they work with Rob the Robot. Wrecking Crew and Excite Bike are in the Programmable series because they allowed players to design their own levels. Slalom and Tennis are in the Sports series because they're sports games and all stuff like that. Nintendo launched the Education series with Junior Math and not one other fucking game. There were supposed to be 2 others, a Donkey Kong music game I touched on a little in the 80s roundup called Donkey Kong No Ongaku Asobi, and a 3rd mystery game, both of which were cancelled. The game launched by itself and was the worst selling of all the NES launch titles. Nintendo would decide educational games sucked and weren't worth making because they didn't sell well and just kind of left it to the third parties for a while. Until Mario Paint. Again, I covered all this stuff in the other videos. Check out Mario Paint and Mario's Missing plus Mario's Time Machine. I love shameless plugs. As a preview for the game, they put out this game called Donkey Kong Jr. Math plus Junior Sansu Lesson as a pack-in for the Sharp C1 Famicom TV, which is basically a TV with a built-in Famicom. It included a version of Donkey Kong Jr. with less content, like 2 cut levels, and a prototype version of Junior Math. I'm talking about everything around Junior Math besides Junior Math because there is truly, honestly, nothing to this fucking game. I want you to imagine someone writes a number on a piece of paper and shows it to you. You have a calculator, and you have to get that number without just typing it. You can add, subtract, multiply, and divide all you want. You can do 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 73 fucking times if you want. This isn't a game, there's no points. Oh, and before you're allowed to press any buttons, you gotta play a little bit of Donkey Kong Jr. That's junior math. You got 2 game modes with 2 difficulty options for the first. First up is Calculate, where DK holds up a number at top here, and you play as Junior trying to get that number with all these numbers on the chains, and these signs at the bottom here. Who is this pink little fella? Well, that's Donkey Kong Jr. too. I have no fucking idea what he's here for, but when you win, he has a heart attack. The second game mode is Exercise. DK holds a sign that says Select, and so I press Select and it took me back to the title screen. I may be stupid. What he actually means is to select which type of problem you want to solve. Once you do, you're given a problem and you solve it. This isn't edutainment, it's just school with a monkey. Monkeys are cool, but I don't know if they could really save school. To select a number, you use the chains and line them up with the numbers like an XY grid. It's so boring. Moving on. If for some ungodly reason you want to play the game for yourself, it's unlockable in Animal Crossing, and it was put on Virtual Console for Wii and Wii U. We got ourselves a whole trilogy of Game & Watch games this time as opposed to just one. They all try the same concept in slightly different ways. It's very strange. I'm still using some of Magical simulators, but starting in this section, I'm going to be using some of the RetroFab simulations, which are very, very polished as well. The first Game & Watch tie-in, also called Donkey Kong Jr., was released as part of the new widescreen line of Game & Watches. There was a wave of Game & Watches with slightly wider screens, and then they moved on to new waves, and then they decided to do the widescreens again, thus, new widescreen. Nintendo's been doing this new shit for a long time. Here we got a cute little adaptation of the vine scene. You got a bottom part with vines you can latch onto to avoid snapjaws with some nitpickers swooping by. Then there's this platform you climb up onto, and at the end you gotta run to the left and jump at the same time to grab the key and unlock the cage. This is basic, but in these old LCD games, it's actually quite rare to be made to combine actions like this, so it took my dumb brain a bit to figure that out. Mario's just kinda sitting there. He's zoning out hardcore. 5 months later, they came out with Donkey Kong 2, this time as part of the multi-screen series. In a weird way, this is like a sequel to the other one. Well, that one adapts the first board of the arcade game, this one kinda adapts the third and fourth boards. And maybe, you can even count this little area down here as the second level adaptation if you're a sad loser like myself. You start on the bottom screen, and again, some snapjaws will come toward you. Once again, you can jump over them, and the goal is to reach these vines and climb up a layer. The second layer is Mario's hideout. It's all about avoiding sparks, just like the snapjaws. Once again, climb up the vines, and you're on the top screen. This whole screen is the chain scene. There's snapjaws on the floor, and nitpickers patrolling the chains. So here's the shit. To unlock one of the 4 locks, you need a key. The first key waits for you right at the top screen, but for the other 3, it's back at the very beginning of the bottom screen. So the game is essentially you running back and forth delivering keys to free your dad, get a bunch of points, and repeat until you game over. Then another 7 months after that, they came out with another Donkey Kong Jr. Game & Watch game, again, just called Donkey Kong Jr. But it's different. This one is part of the Panorama Screen series, which is definitely an interesting series of handhelds. It hinges kind of like the multi-screens, but at this weird angle where it's intended to be placed flat on a table. The screen is like angled with a mirror. It's very similar to how the Virtual Boy would eventually be designed, actually. I didn't have too much fun with this one, honestly. It's just another take on the vine scene, but it's got this, like, maze design to it. You gotta reach DK at the end, but to do it, you, like, ride down these umbrellas and then up with a balloon. The first time I tried this, I thought the umbrellas were nitpickers I had to avoid, so I got really confused. There are nitpickers here trying to kill you, though. They're just red. I initially thought the umbrellas were a strange choice until I remembered that Junior actually does ride an umbrella in the original game. Jury's out on the balloons, though. Wrapping up on Donkey Kong Jr. in general, this game is underrated. Don't get me wrong, it's still iconic, and honestly, I still like going back to Donkey Kong just a tad bit more. But Jr. deserves some more love. It's a silly-ass game, oozing with charm for the era, like the death animations and the ending with Mario getting kicked away and Jr. being all like, where the fuck they go? It has a lot of cartoon personality, and I appreciate that. Give this game a shot, you won't regret it.
Mario isn't risking his neck against Donkey Kong. He's up to his neck in cement in Mario's Cement Factory.
Watch out, it's gonna spill.
A tabletop game from Nintendo, made so batteries can last 3 years. Batteries not included, with colorful characters and the story of the rise and fall of Mario. Nintendo tabletop games, 3 in all, each sold separately. Snoopy game, Popeye game, and Mario Cement Factory. From Nintendo. Nintendo.
Before moving on to the next big game, I think we're on a roll with these Game & Watch games, so let's cover a couple more first. Done not in order of release, but in a more cohesive order. Starting off with some more Donkey Kong games, first with Donkey Kong Circus. Back in the day, Nintendo had an interesting interconnected history with Disney and Mickey Mouse. Way back in their Hanafuda card days, they were doing decently well, but it wasn't until they started printing Disney cards when they really took off. So in a weird way, that corporate empire is partially responsible for building this corporate empire. What the hell does this have to do with Donkey Kong Circus?
Everything.
Just like with the Hanafuda cards, they launched the Game & Watch series with a few licensed games to help boost sales, as I mentioned a while back. And one of these properties was Mickey Mouse. However, they only had the rights from Disney in Japan. They had to reskin and rename it to simply Egg. They later made 2 more Mickey games on the Game & Watch, Mickey and Donald, which never saw an international release, and another game, again titled Mickey Mouse, as part of the Panorama Screen series. It's kind of the same deal as Donkey Kong Jr., having a widescreen game and then another game with the same title for Panorama. Weird parallel. The game again got reskinned, this time as a Donkey Kong game, officially making it part of our stupid little marathon. However, interestingly, this Mickey Mouse game did release stateside. I don't know why we got 2 versions of the exact same game in the same year. If anyone knows why, I'd love to know. Besides the point though, I suppose. Donkey Kong Circus. Released in September of 1984, this game acts as a kind of prequel to the original Donkey Kong. The Mario timeline is coming along nicely so far. As I mentioned before, DK was Mario's pet gorilla. Here, it seems like he's training him as a circus performer. Damn, Mario's such a horrible person in this early era. Maybe that's why he's so nice now. He's trying to make up for this time in his youth. You play as Donkey Kong himself for the first time ever. You're balancing on a barrel as you try to juggle pineapples and avoid fireballs. Sometimes it seems like you'd get hurt by the fire, but it doesn't actually kill you until it's in your hand. This game is super simple, but crazy addictive. But that's all there is to it. Its history is more interesting than the game itself. Mario again is just staring at you, but he'll also laugh at you when you fail. What a dick. In November of '84, we got Donkey Kong Hockey, what could be considered the very first of many Mario sports games. This bad boy was part of the Micro Versus series, these weird-looking Game & Watches that had 2 controllers dangling out of them. Now this, I could not imagine anyone using as a watch. The original Game & Watch games, sure, those were a premium. I can imagine a busy Japanese businessman having this in his inside pocket to bust out on long train rides, but this is a video game device for the youngins, for sure. I still think about how Nintendo went from this to this, and I cry a little sometimes. The Micro Versus system's big thing was multiplayer, obviously. 2 people could play at a time. You could also be a loser and play with 1 player. Though interestingly, player 1 is on the right, and 2 is always on left. Most games, even dating back to arcades, are reverse of that. Look at you, Donkey Kong Hockey, fighting norms. In the game itself, it's Pong. Player 1 is Mario, player 2 is DK. And there's these 2 little grabber things in the middle. Maybe they represent other players. If your puck touches one, it goes off in a wacky direction. When the puck comes towards you, you can just touch it and it'll go diagonally. But you can also press the hit button and hit it straight on. However, you gotta time it well, because if you're too late, it'll go right past you. It's kinda like real life in a weird way. If you raise your stick too much and make a hard shot, the puck's gonna fly right past you. It's strangely engaging for a little LCD game. First player to 10 points wins. Next up, we got Mario's Bombs Away from November '83. This is the game where Mario's a nom. What the fuck? For real? What? Is that canon? Was Mario an honest Eldstar soldier in Viet goddamn Nam? Okay. Anyway, this is another panorama screen game. You play as Mario, and your buddy in the fort hands you a bomb. It's your goal to bring it to your other buddy on the right so he can throw it on top of the trees. Once you get 5 bombs up there, they blow, and you get a ton of points. However, you gotta avoid fire prematurely blowing your bomb up. Enemy soldiers hide in the trees with torches, so when they put a torch down, you gotta press down to hold it down. However, this motherfucker, the heavy smoker, this guy's on your side! He's just so fucking negligent that he's just as much of a threat as the torches. He's just casually smoking on a spilled oil drum, one that has gasoline spilling all the way to the start. So he'll occasionally throw a cigar onto the gas, and then there'll be fire from below. So you gotta press up to hold your bomb above your head. But remember, the enemy soldiers will try to light your bomb from above, so you gotta press down to avoid them. It becomes a game of dodging and weaving so you can get the bomb to the end. That's about all there really is to say about this game. However, your friend at the end will sometimes just not hold his hands out to get the bomb, so you also have to time that for some reason. So what it all comes down to is this huge game of careful timing. It's a lot of fun, even if it is super weird that it's a Mario game. April 83 gave us Mario's Cement Factory, part of the tabletop and new widescreen series. This one sucks. In some earlier versions of the game, the starting jingle is Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. That doesn't suck. Anyway, you play as Mario and you're in a cement factory. On both sides of you, there's this big bowl of cement, and under that is a container, then another container, then a truck. You gotta pull the lever to bring the cement down, and if one of the containers fills with cement, you lose. That's difficult to prevent because you're bouncing back and forth between both sides. And that wouldn't be so bad if traversing from one side to another just meant fucking walking there, but no, there's these goofy elevators going on opposite directions, and if you stay on one too long, you'll get crushed, and if you drop down, you die of fall damage, so traveling in a fast-paced game such as this is fucking annoying. Another thing, only in some versions, is the alarm guy. In the original tabletop version, the alarm bell was instead this little guy. Is he the third Mario brother? As with a lot of these games, there's a Game & Watch Gallery remake of this game, in particular the fourth game. However, they replaced the cement with cookies. I've heard of cookies as hard as rock, but this is ridiculous. Finally, before moving on... Mario Bros. But why not wait to talk about this when I talk about the main Mario Bros? Isn't this just another tie-in? No, it's not. It's nothing like the arcade game at all. For starters, it predates the game by 3 months. Yes, that means that this fucking game is the world's introduction to Luigi. Hi, Luigi.
Oh, hello.
I'll talk more about this guy's origins when I get to the arcade Mario Bros. This game is in the horizontal multi-screen series. It's like the other one that inspired the DS, but sideways. You may say this one is different and didn't inspire the DS at all, but don't forget, especially early on, a lot of DS games like Brain Age and Guitar Hero were played sideways. The Game & Watch really deserves a lot more credit for being the prototype of so many of Nintendo's ideas. Anyway, the game has you playing Mario and Luigi at the same time. Mario on the right gets a box coming from this conveyor belt on the bottom right. You gotta stand next to it to pass it on to Luigi. Luigi's on the left screen, has to stand next to it to pass it to the belt above it. Then Mario has to do it next, and so on and so forth. Once the box is at the tippy top of Luigi's conveyor belt, it's fully wrapped and ready to be put on a truck. Once you have these 4 boxes in there, you get a ton of points. Throw a fuckload of boxes all at once, and this becomes one of the funnest Game & Watch games like ever. Mario and Luigi sure did have to work a ton of heavy labor jobs before settling on plumbing, huh? You really get the sense that they kind of struggled in the real world and felt more accepted in the wacky Mushroom Kingdom. And hey, clearly the writers of the 2023 Mario movie thought the same thing. They have this boss that yells at Mario when he drops a ba. There's even a little animation of Mario doing a Japanese-style bow. Poor guy. Seriously though, play this game. It's part of Game & Watch Gallery 3 and 4, and it's fucking addicting. And so we move on. There's gonna be one more teeny Game & Watch game later, but besides that, we are done with those wacky things. The next important pillar in the foundation of Mario's history was Mario Bros. The arcade one this time. It's been 2 years since Donkey Kong, and Gunpei Yokoi the Wise and Shigeru Miyamoto the Rancid have something of a friendship in this time. One day they'd sit around, shoot the shit, and discuss that original Donkey Kong project that brought them together. Yeah, I kinda hate that, like, Mario... He's Jumpman, right? But when you jump too high and he falls, he dies. You shouldn't do that. That wouldn't be a very fun game now, would it? Dude, when's the last time you took a bath? Eventually, Miyamoto decides to make an honest-to-God lore decision, saying that Mario could potentially be superhuman, able to jump super high and be fine from the fall. The inspiration struck. Let's make a game more based around jumping. Not just to get around, but maybe also to attack. Jumping is officially Mario's thing. Miyamoto would draft up a prototype where Mario would hop around free as a bunny. Then multiple floors were implemented. Yokoi would suggest adding enemies that could only be defeated from below. It wasn't too fun, so they thought, what if you had to kick the baddies after jumping under them? The layout of the board and the objective of clearing out enemies leads a lot of people to think of Joust, a game released just the previous year. However, I can't really find a solid source to state that the game was directly inspired by Joust in any way. If anything, Balloon Fight's the game you want to look at for that. Slight tangent, I just see this a lot. And even I said it in the original video. Enemies would pop out of giant green pipes, making this the first game in the franchise to feature warp pipes. They made them green entirely due to a limited color palette on the arcade boards, but Miyamoto wanted them to be bright and colorful. Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. focused on the tight single-player experience, so this new game was built from the ground up to be a mostly two-player experience. The game can be played single or multiplayer, but when picking 2 players, you can both play at the same time and kick baddies together. However, there's a problem. Who's gonna be the other character? And so they gave Mario a brother and named the game Mario Brothers. His brother would be named Luigi, of course. Well, his first appearance was that Game & Watch game I talked about. The way the development timeline works out, he was created for this game. He had no personality or distinction on his own. His name was a pun on that fact. In Japanese, there's no distinction between R's and L's, so Luigi's Japanese name is Ruigi. Ruigi is a Japanese word that means similar, so it's just a happy coincidence that Luigi is also an Italian name like Mario. And Mario and Luigi just has such a beautiful ring to it. That shit's fate. The bros are together at last. Now the game does actually have a little bit of a story, one that kind of ties into the beginning of Super Mario Bros, albeit loosely. Mario and Luigi live in New York or New Donk or whatever, but here they're plumbers, running their own business called Mario Bros. They, for some reason or another, are taking a big case in the sewers of New Donk, clearing it of a ton of pests. Very similar to some we'll see in the Mushroom Kingdom. You start the game, and as mentioned before, you got an option of 1 or 2 players. Strangely, Mario's color scheme is primarily blue here instead of red. The game start jingle is that one Mozart song. You know the one, it's Classico. He is going to kick your fucking ass, and you know his name is Kyle Gass. Yeah, you know that one. You're dropped into this board with warp pipes on the 4 corners, a bunch of blue platforms above you, and a POW block, or Prisoner of War block. The game's map loops, meaning that if you run to the right, you'll pop back up to the left, and the same applies to all enemies. Mario makes this little shoe squeak noise as he runs, and I absolutely adore it. The goal of each board is to clear it out of all enemies. You do this by jumping under them to knock them prone, then walking into them to kick them. If you can't kick them in time, they'll get back up and get all sprited purple, making them way faster. You also got the POW block, which, when hitting, will knock every enemy down on the whole screen. The problem is, each time you hit it, the block gets more and more squished, until eventually it's gone for the whole game. You got 3 uses of the POW block for the entire game, so you gotta use it wisely. The game, movement and controls wise, is an insane leap from the last 2. This is the missing link from the stiff jumping of Donkey Kong Jr. to the perfect analog jumping of Super Mario Bros. It's not all there yet, though. There's still growing pains. If you're running, you can't jump back until you're at a full stop, and you're really slippery, too, so you can't stop very fast. I guess that's why your shoes are so squeaky. Overall, it feels good, but if you're used to the newer 2D Marios, it'll take getting used to. A lot of fun here comes from the actual enemies. After a couple phases, when it's time to introduce a new baddie, you're presented with a little cutscene showing how to defeat them. All these guys and obstacles coming at you at once can make the game very frantic, very fun, and very quarter hungry. Starting off, the Shell Creepers. No, these aren't Koopas, they're different. For 1, you can't jump on them. For 2, they're on all 4s, unlike Oh, wait. Also, when they pick themselves up, they get out of their shells for a brief second, revealing that they're wearing wife beaters, much like the gag with Beach Koopas later on in the series. But that's all there is to Shell Creepers. They walk around, you hit them from below, and you kick them. These guys are the Goombas of their day. Depending on the region, for some reason, on either Phase 4 or 5, sidesteppers are introduced. These guys follow the same basic principle, but are a lot more dangerous, as they take 2 hits, and after the first hit, they get faster. So if you got a purple one of these fuckers, be careful. On either Phase 6 or 7, you got fighter flies. These guys make scary fucking noises. Not hard, just annoying. Because they hop in big arcs, giving you a small window of actually being able to hit them from below. In Phase 9 or 10, there's Slip Ice, though they were later renamed to Freezies. These guys aren't like the regular guys you gotta dispense of. They and the rest of the list are just here to be an asshole. Freezies can blow up and turn the entire platform icy and slippery, as if the game didn't feel that loose to begin with. Later on in the game, there can be these icicles that drop from the ceiling, but honestly, I can never get that far. Finally, if you spend too long on a board, green and red fireballs will appear to literally light a fire under your ass. Green ones go straight forward across the screen while red ones bounce. Every couple of phases you get these little bonus levels. This is the first time we see the classic Mario coins. There's 10 in all scattered around for you to get within 20 seconds, and let me tell you, with this game's movement, it's tougher than it looks. I kinda love how they don't float yet. They're clearly hoisted by strings and hanging from the ceiling. Maybe that's why they spin. While I'm talking about the game itself, I want to bring up multiplayer a little more. I played a session with my buddy Eddie. Here's the only known photo of him. And it was a lot of fun. He described the green fireballs in a way that, frankly, disgusted me. You can very much tell that the game was designed from the ground up for this experience. You bump into each other and can jump off each other, making it very hectic. When you die, in single player or multiplayer, you spawn in on a little platformer, and I can't help but think that it inspired Super Smash Bros. No further thoughts. And that pretty much sums up the game, as it's designed to go on forever, or until you run out of quarters. While I found it difficult to find exact sales figures, by all accounts it was middling. A prototype for the game was shown at the Amusement Operators Expo, and the reviews were mixed. The game seemed to not be appreciated in its time. It wasn't a flop or anything, but it wasn't the smash hit that the last two main Mario arcade titles were. However, history looks back at Mario Bros. Quite fondly. Nintendo sure fucking does. For a time, every GBA Mario game had a version of the game just packed in. It got a special version for the Famicom Disk System called Kaitakita Mario Bros., and a spiritual successor for the Virtual Boy called Mario Clash. Super Mario 3D World also had this little unlockable version of the game called Luigi Bros, where player 1 is Luigi, and there's a few other things here and there that are different, like a new resolution, and Luigi has a modern color scheme. But if you want more ways to play the game, man, we got you covered. This bad boy was on the Atari 2600, 5200, 7800, and 8-bit computers, the NEC PC 8001, Amstrad CPC, Commodore 64, and ZX Spectrum. Nintendo themselves popped out an NES port, easily becoming the most iconic version of the game. It once again gave us some classic title music, and then went and removed the cutscenes. Damn shame, these early arcade ports. If you want to play the original arcade version, you once again got the Arcade Archives version on Switch. The NES original got brought over to all the same shit. GBA, E-Reader, Animal Crossing, Virtual Console for Wii, 3DS, and Wii U, NES Classic, and Switch Online. It was also playable on the PlayChoice 10 arcade machine. How's that for different? There were 2 bonus games here released for the NEC PC 8801 computer. Now what the hell is that conjunction of numbers and letters, you may ask? The Nippon Electric Company, or NEC, is a company that specializes in providing their technical knowledge to other companies. Collaborating with Hudson Soft, they broke into the video game market with a line of computers, and eventually their own console, the PC Engine, known in the States as the TurboGrafx 16. You might know Hudson for creating Bomberman, but these guys have a long history of friendship with Nintendo. There's a Wario and Bomberman crossover, they created the Mario Party series and made every game in the series up to 9. They worked on DDR Mario Mix, and they even helped create the Family Basic accessory for the Famicom. It's the mid-80s. Nintendo used to let anyone port their games all willy-nilly, but the market crashed in the States, and Nintendo's got their own console with stricter restrictions. They aren't going to have any Nintendo games on anything but the Famicom. Unless, of course, their buddy Hudson makes it. That's right, Nintendo, for a time, allowed Hudson to make ports of a bunch of early Famicom titles for the PC 8801. Ice Climber, Excitebike, and as mentioned before, even Mario Bros. However, Hudson went on to make their own special, unique versions of some of these games. This includes versions of Super Mario Bros., Donkey Kong 3, and 2 for Mario Bros. The first of those 2 is Mario Bros. Special, released in August of 1984. Now I tried, guys. I really tried. I really wanted to get my own footage of these so I can tell you absolutely firsthand what the PC 8801 games were actually like. But after hours of fiddling with different emulators, it just would not take. I tried all 4 of the Mario related games. The 2 other ones for this video wouldn't start up at all. Mario Bros. Special started, but it's just blue, and the music is all janky and shit too. And while it wasn't relevant to this video, I also tried Super Mario Bros. Special, and that one works, but Mario won't stop jumping and running, making it entirely unplayable. Alas, I shall be able to play the game another day. Oh, wait. I forgot to check the README. Maybe there's something there. Okay, it says... That helps. Shout out to these guys on YouTube for the footage I stole. Anyway, what makes Mario Bros. So special, you may ask? A lot of things. This music, for starters. When you start up the game, you're graded to this wonderful platform challenge instead of anything resembling Mario Bros. If you manage to time your jumps well enough to reach the top and light up all these lollipops, then you get to play something a bit more Mario Bros-y. Never mind. These are trampolines? Trampoline! Oh, well, there's a shell creeper. Mine! Jumping on the trampoline while he's on there is enough for you to knock him down. This is actually a cute creative take on the Mario Bros. Formula. Phase 3 gives you some conveyor belts, a moving platform, and another new layout. At this point, I'm starting to understand this game. It's not really Mario Bros. It's kind of like continuing it, or like giving you some bonus levels for it. It's not a crazy souped up version I was expecting, but I think that's okay. There's a little floating dollar sign over here occasionally teleporting, and the goal is for Mario to collect them. Jumping on a conveyor belt with the enemy on it does the same thing the trampolines do. It kind of bounce a little bit when you land on them. Phase 4 just has a bunch of coins for you to pick up, like the bonus phases in the original. After this point, the game loops and adds new enemies, like the sidesteppers. It's an interesting game, but I don't think I'm missing a whole lot not playing this one. It's definitely a part of Mario history. In October '84, Punchball Mario Bros. Just fucking appeared in stores. No one knows how, and no one knows why. What's a punchball anyway? I would always assume like a dodgeball, but looking it up, it's a version of baseball where you punch instead of batting. No, that can't be it. Maybe it's these weird things. Maybe the manual can provide insight. At some point, humans gained the ability to use tools. At first, they were simple things, using the bones of animals and fragments of rock. Using their wisdom, humans improved their tools. Harnessing fire, wind, and nowadays even atomic energy, they began to build up a sophisticated culture. On the other hand, however, there are people who still only use stone. How do they catch game and defend themselves from outsiders? Only using their strong jumping power and stone spheres. They use those skillfully to defend themselves. Here we introduce two such people. It seems their names are Mario and Luigi. Will they ever learn about sophisticated culture? What? The fuck? Okay, I suppose they're stone, and Mario and Luigi are just Neanderthals. Gotcha. So I guess the idea here is it's a basic version of Mario Bros. With a more basic stage layout, but you have a punch ball that you can throw at enemies to knock them over. It doesn't really bounce a lot, so it doesn't look horribly fun. I guess it is made out of stone. Later on, they add different wacky stage gimmicks like moving platforms, but dude, it chugs so much. So fucking much. This looks like such a boring game, and that's all I can really say about it until I'm able to play it for myself. Mario Bros. Is definitely the missing link in the Mario series. It's an important stepping stone, or punch ball if you will. And while it didn't become the juggernaut they probably expected it to be, it's remembered fondly all the same. It's a game I have fun with once in a while, and it's great to put on with a bud, but never for too long. Like the others, I recommend you at least try it once in your lifetime. And so we reach the final segment of the evening, but first, before the actual main course, how about an appetizer? But I'm so full from the 20 fucking other games you're talking about. Shut the fuck up! No, you're not. And you're sick of fucking Game & Watch games? Fuck you, Greenhouse! Greenhouse is a multi-screen Game & Watch game released in December of 1982. The character you play as is known in the manual simply as the Fumigator, but in later sources he was given the name Stanley the Bugman. This game has nothing to do with Mario. At all. No characters, items, Donkey Kong, not even something random like Pauline's fucking purse being in it for 0.5 seconds or something. Literally nothing. However, Stanley would soon after be the star of Donkey Kong 3, and gameplay very much based on his appearance in this game, so it counts. I'm counting it. You have 4 flowers, 2 on each screen, and the whole point of the game is to defend them. Like a tower defense game. You have a spray gun you can use to spray your enemies with pesticides, and the idea is that you frantically run back and forth defending your flowers from bugs. On the top screen, there's these little worm guys inching towards the flowers. The farther they are from the flower, the more points they give when they die. At the bottom, 2 spiders slowly descend from their webs towards their respective flowers. For these guys, you gotta do the opposite and spraying them when they get closer to the flowers for more points. I like this one a lot. It's simplistic, as all Game & Watch games are, but like a lot of them, it's fun as hell. While the gameplay was simplistic, you can definitely see the ways that it set the foundation for Donkey Kong 3. While I can't find any information for how this game came to be exactly, it's not hard to guess. Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. were smash hits. Naturally, you gotta make another one. Mario's off doing his own thing, so perhaps to avoid brain confusion, they decided someone else. This is all just speculation on my part, not substantiated at all, but I just find it endlessly fascinating how they decided to forego anything to do with the series' platforming roots, and instead seemingly adapt or build off this random Game & Watch game. In the weirdest way, it seems now the game has more to do with radar scope than it ever did Donkey Kong. That is so emblematic of what's wrong with this game. It lost sight of what it's a sequel to entirely. Sprites of Jr. were in the game's files, so it seems they wanted to put more Donkey Kong stuff in it, but alas, it seems like there wasn't enough time. And so all we really have is the title and the gorilla on the top of the screen. The story of this game is that Stanley's just chilling at home when he sees Donkey Kong break into his greenhouse. That's it. That's the story. Part of me is also starting to wonder if this is actually originally intended to be a Donkey Kong game. Like, what about this premise, gameplay, and story has really anything to do with what's been established? Booting it up, the game tells you to spray Donkey Kong to the top, and that's exactly your goal. You're Stanley right here at the bottom. You can hop between these 3 tiers and weave left and right to avoid enemies, and you can spray your spray gun directly upwards. At the start of each level, Donkey Kong, while hanging from the raptors up top, rattles around some beehives to get a bunch of buzzbees to go after you. The objective of each board is to spray into DK's asshole enough times to get him to the very top. If you don't spray him consistently though, he slides down slowly. On top of that goal, the buzzbees aren't just going to kill you, they're also going after your 5 plants here at the bottom. So much like Greenhouse, you gotta protect those too. They want to carry your plants away for some reason incomprehensible to the human mind, and when all 5 are gone, that's a death. So you're basically just running back and forth, killing bees, protecting flowers, but also trying your damnedest to keep shooting DK before he slides back down. Besides the bees, you can also see these little worms coming at you. They're called creepies, and they look identical to the ones from Greenhouse. Unlike that game though, you can't kill them with your standard spray gun. There's a way to do it though. See this little spray gun up here? In some boards, when you get DK past that threshold, he'll drop it down and you'll be temporarily upgraded with a super sprayer. This lets you shoot farther, faster, and even kill creepies. It's not an invincibility item though, much like the hammer in Donkey Kong 1. You still gotta be careful. Did you know that the fucking buzzbees can damage you after they fucking die? You have to wait for them to vanish, the cocksuckers. When you clear a board, Stanley does this little jig. I love this, look at the wonder in his eyes. But then when you die, this fucking happens. Jesus Christ, that's brutal. I wish I had more to say, but this game just stays like that. It doesn't really have a lot of depth. I just don't have nearly as much fun with it as the other games. They give you the same enemies, just recolored and tougher. The boards look different and have some different tier layouts, and they can even change the plants to different plants. Ooh. But all this isn't interesting enough at all. This is all there is to Donkey Kong 3, and that's why it's the worst in the trilogy by far. And I wasn't alone in thinking this. Junior sold about half as many cabinets as the first game, and this one didn't even come close. The Ultimate History of Video Games, which admittedly is a little bit of a dubious source, says that it only sold about 5,000 cabs in the US, and that the original sold 60,000. That's 12 times more than Donkey Kong 3. This game was not fucking wanted. No one remembers this one, like, at all. You can even tell this in its ports. Usually other companies were clamoring to scoop up the rights, but it just wasn't there. Perhaps that's because the Famicom existed, but I choose to believe it's because they could tell that the game was gonna bomb. Anyway, you can play this shitty game for yourself on the NES and Animal Crossing on the Virtual Console for Wii 3DS and Wii U, and Switch Online. Stanley also had a guest appearance on the Saturday Supercade. There, that show represented the whole trilogy. Just like all the other main Donkey Kong titles, Donkey Kong 3 earned itself a Game & Watch tie-in, and this is actually going to be our final Game & Watch game for the night. Breathe a sigh of relief, it's almost over. This one's in the Micro Versus series, just like Donkey Kong Hockey, and it's a weird-ass one, let me tell you. Player 1 is Stanley and 2 is DK. You both have gardens. Yes, even DK. Shit, I don't know he was chill like that. Anyway, you both have gardens behind you with water dripping. You're armed with a spray gun, but there's a limited ammo of 3 shots. To refill, you just go to the right middle section and fill it with that dripping water. So what do you spray? Each other? Nope. Bugs. Flies. To kill them? Noperino. To send them at your opponent. Oh, so I get it right. A fly comes at you, so you gotta hit it to go back at the opponent. But there's a ton of flies, so it gets super chaotic, and it's a ton of fun, right? Nope! The fly gets sent back 1 space every time, slowly inching to the other player. And it goes up and down on its own, so you gotta time your shots. This game fucking sucks. It goes on forever. Not fun, would not recommend. Our final game of the program is Donkey Kong City Daigyakushu, translated to be Donkey Kong 3, The Great Counterattack. Just like Hudson's other ports, this one was made for NEC's line of computers, primarily the PC-8801. The footage I'm showing is from the Sharp X1 version. Like Punchball in Mario Bros. Special, this is meant to be less of the original and more like its own thing. On the surface, this is a similar situation to Mario Bros. Special, or so you think. The game even launched on the very same day as Mario Bros. Special in August of '84. However, there was no standard Donkey Kong 3. People who owned the PC-8801 and not a Famicom, wanting to play Donkey Kong 3, got this. Shh. Donkey Kong is speaking. Each level begins with a huge text telling you what stage you're on, and then it shows you the artwork and the background of the level, with text describing where you are, the first of which being on the highway. I believe that the idea is Stanley is chasing DK off and the conflict is taking them all over the place, even around the world. The titular Great Counterattack isn't from DK, it's from Stanley, and he's pissed. The gameplay is actually a bit different, though its core is the same. You're still Stanley, the bugman at the bottom, trying to spray DK while avoiding baddies. DK is riding parachutes in each level, I guess since there's no rafters to hang from outside. There's also no plants to defend, it's just you and DK going at it. There's also absolutely no platforms to jump up and down from, removing the Y-axis from the gameplay completely, making this gameplay a lot more like Galaga or any space shooter from the time. I want to get back to the journey of this game though. What do you think
story-wise, the progression of levels is. Based on the first level being a highway, and me telling you that Stanley chases him around the world, you might think, oh, maybe in a desert or in a city, basic shit like that. And yes, you are correct. I think it'd just be best to close this segment with the progression of Donkey Kong 3: The Great Counterattack, using headcanon explaining getting from one place to another. And to make it funnier, you begin your brawl on the highway, but as you progress, you cross a bridge. The level is described as on the strange bridge. You don't realize what's so strange about it until you look to the sky, though. That's a UFO, that's kinda cute. Stage 3 is on the country road, so it's clear you're simply following a road, seeing where it takes you. Stage 4, the fucking aliens! Stage 5, you are in their UFO. Stage 6, you are officially leaving the Earth. They have taken you and you don't care because you can't even stand to be on the same planet as Donkey Kong. 7, you're in the Astron Belt. 8, you're around the Saturn. Not Saturn, the Saturn. In Stage 9, you reach a mysterious planet. 10, you are on the desert of its surface. 11, you find a pyramid. The alien civilization's culture is clearly very similar to the Egyptians, clearly implying the age-old conspiracy that aliens built the pyramids. And in the Mario universe, the pyramids were built by these guys. 12 insists you to be inside of a cave, but it looks more like a colonoscopy. 13 has you reach an active volcano, and 14 has you in an active crater. Stage 15, at the Dome. Stage 16 says on the ground picture, perhaps a large crop circle-like thing built in the desert. We're losing the order a little bit. What happened to the volcano? 17 sees you at the runway. Perhaps Stanley and DK are making their way home, but it's all too late because 18 is the mushroom cloud. They're still fucking kicking, though. 19 is simply at the sunset. The entire screen is black, save for a lone red sun silhouetting birds flying in the distance. Sunsets are an end to the day, and as such can indicate an end to a long journey. Maybe they finally made it home and can put this dispute behind them, given the no doubt traumatic events they both endured together. The final stage, 20, is at the city. And this is not fucking Earth. Look, there's the Saturn in the background. Given that this game loops after a point, I can only imagine that they both get stranded here. DK eventually makes it home, but perhaps the alien atmosphere made him age fast. Stanley's just dead, though. This game is fucking wild for the backgrounds alone. The gameplay? It's literally just a less involved Donkey Kong 3, so by virtue of that alone, it's garbage. Donkey Kong 3, in general, it fucking sucks. It killed the DK series for a whopping 11 years. Nintendo's bread and butter at the time. The entire reason they're still doing video games now. They killed it, and then someone else had to come and unkill it. And then another someone else had to unkill it after that. Even in the context of someone from the newer generation going back to experience Mario history, this is not worth it. It's got nothing at all to do with Donkey Kong, and it's not fun nor historically well remembered. It's just not worth it. Skip this one.
That was an awful sour note to end on, so let me just try to remedy that real fast. The Mario Marathon has been going on for a long time, 5 years, but still, I just feel like I'm just getting started. And maybe that I just did like an hour-long video about the start of it has something to do with it, but besides the point, I have so much left to go through, and I hope that you are along for that ride with me. The next video after this one is Wrecking Crew, except it's already out. It's been out for a couple years, so if you want to just continue the chronology of the series, you watch this one, you can go on a Wrecking Crew. But the next new episode is Mario and Wario.
This video was in development hell, so we're gonna pretend that I didn't record this section like 2 or 3 years ago, so the next video is something else. Ooh, it's a surprise, whoa.
I'm also changing the playlist to reflect that. I am removing the old videos off of that playlist, but not off my channel. They're still there. They're always gonna be there. They're backed up on my hard drive, but for whatever reason, they're just not there. But if you go on the playlist, it'll be in the correct chronological order. It's a hard word for me to say, so I gotta slow down. And who knows, maybe I'll remake any of those other videos on a different anniversary. If I go to 10 years, Jesus. I'll see you in 2028, guys. I'll be like reviewing Mario Galaxy or something.
Likely.
Then. Right now, no promises. I'm pretty happy with them, but you know how creators are with, their past work. They're like, oh, I gotta tinker, I gotta work on it, I gotta make it better. And before I skedaddle, I want to give a special thanks to my buddy Matt for the new intros. You've no doubt already noticed. They're pretty sexy. They got nice new logos, nice new animations. It's beautiful. So thank you, Matt. At
the memory slot.
He's got a YouTube channel he's gonna be starting up pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. 5 fucking years. I started this series 2 months after I graduated. I'm
26.
Life comes at you pretty fucking fast, I guess. It's been a wild ride. I've actually been on YouTube for a long time before that, though, like a whopping 15 fucking years, but that shit sucks. No, don't watch any of that. The Mario Marathon is when I actually started caring, when I actually cared about making content and took it more seriously. Now, I don't do it as a full-time job or anything. I'm working my way towards that one. But I mark August 5th, 2018 as the official start of doing YouTube. And I think I made good progress since then, don't you? Now, I know you goobers just want to see more internet interest, and don't worry, I aims to get you what you want. But Mario Marathon is more of a passion project, and it's something I do because I very much love making videos about Mario and sharing fun facts and whatnot. I know it doesn't get the views as the other ones do, but I appreciate you guys for sticking around, watching these videos, and indulging me on my stupid Mario fun facts. Thank you. But enough pondering the past. It's time to blast forward to the future, to the new year of 2024. That's the year. I'm not used to it yet. In the next episode of the Mario Marathon, I'll be covering
All this man does is lie.
I hope you join me next time, whatever the future may bring.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for playing my game.